Hello, and welcome to the Maine Science Assessment Training module for proctoring in the Atom platform. In this module, we will discuss proctor roles and proctor groups in Atom. We'll cover using the proctor dashboard and the information that can be found there, and also talk about proctoring an assessment session, including some things that you might encounter on the screen when the students are taking their assessment. Let's start our discussion about proctoring with a review of the roles and permissions related to proctoring. Highlighted on the screen are the actions associated with test proctoring. Proctors are able to view test progress, reseat a student, view student test progress, and add or remove text-to-speech for the session. Proctors cannot unsubmit an assessment session. The school or district assessment coordinator must request the unsubmission of an assessment session by calling the Maine Science Support Desk. Now let's look at proctor groups and how they are defined and administered. Proctor groups are subsets of students who are testing together. The system creates default proctor groups based on the classes entered into Atom by the SAU. The platform also allows for the creation of additional proctor groups for convenience during assessment administration. Common reasons for setting up additional proctor groups include cases in which smaller groups of students need an additional support, such as extended time, or require testing in separate locations, or for make-up groups of students who miss testing with the rest of their class. Default proctor groups can be modified by assessment coordinators and technology coordinators through the class dashboard. Additional proctor groups can be modified by assessment coordinators and technology coordinators through the proctor group details page. Teachers and proctors may not create or modify proctor groups. District and school coordinators who can log into Atom with their individual username and password will have access to the proctor dashboard from the administration cards for each test session. First, go to the Test Management menu on the left side of the home page, and then choose the Administration submenu to get to the admin cards. District and school coordinators can view or export proctor group information from admin cards by expanding the three dots menu next to the proctor groups label and choosing it to view a list of proctor groups, export a CSV of proctor groups, or to print student assessment cards. Student assessment cards, or test tickets, and proctor group cards will become available after students have been assigned to classes. To access the proctor dashboard, first select View. The proctor group's detail view includes a range of information about the proctor groups and offers additional actions to open the roster view for that proctor group, which lists individual students enrolled in the group that all have the same test code. Click on the arrow inside a circle button to launch the proctor dashboard. Teachers and other proctors don't have access to the admin cards, but will instead be able to view proctor group details and the students assigned to the session by using the proctor dashboard. Now let's go over the details of the proctor dashboard. Proctors will access the proctor dashboard using the test code and proctor code for each session, which will be provided to them by their school or district assessment coordinator. First, proctors will go online to atomexam.com. Proctors do not have individual usernames and passwords. Instead, select Proctor a Test from the options to the right of the login boxes. The Proctor a Test option will open a dialog box where the test code and proctor code for a specific test session can be entered. Once the test code and proctor password have been entered, the next screen may prompt the proctor to enter their first and last name. Do so if prompted, and then click Save. Features of the proctor dashboard include proctor group details at the top of the page by using the Information button next to the group name. The test code for the session is available in the upper right corner. Proctors can access test cards for printing by selecting the Print Card link at the top of the proctor dashboard. A menu of options will open for different print layouts of the cards, including 1 per page, 3 by 6, 2 by 4, sequential, stacked, and by proctor group title page. A status bar indicating students' progress for the session, including the number of students not started, in progress, paused, submitted, and exited is underneath the session information. The list of students in the lower part of the screen can also be sorted by test status by clicking on the sort arrows next to the test status column title. Also available with the student information columns are the student's name, state student ID, and the name of the school, the time that they started the test, as well as the test status and item progress. The dashboard includes a feature to set up auto-refresh of the status information. This is a recommended practice to set auto-refresh to yes. A student's progress through the test is important to monitor in case a student needs to be reseated or to know when a student has entered a pause state after opening the test. The cycle for auto-refresh is roughly every 5 minutes. Use the Refresh Now button that looks like two circular arrows to immediately refresh the screen with the latest status at any time. The Proctor dashboard also contains information about the supports and accommodations assigned to students in the session. In the TTS column, a toggle will indicate if the student has a text-to-speech accommodation enabled. Proctors should check that these students do have the TTS toolbar on their test when they start the assessment. The accommodation column indicates how many supports and accommodations are enabled for the student. Hover on this number to expand the information about which supports and accommodations should be available when the student starts the test. If the TTS accommodation is indicated, but the toggle for TTS is not set to yes, then the proctor can change the toggle to yes for this session. In the accountability code column, some students may have a blue box indicating a paper-only assessment. Should a student receiving a paper-based accommodation attempt to log in to the online platform, the following alert message will appear on the screen. The test is blocked. You are prevented from taking this test. During the course of proctoring a session, there are several action buttons available to the proctor on the right side of the dashboard. These include group actions that will be applied to all sessions in the proctor group at once. These options are pause all, resume all, and reseat all. Then there are actions that will be applied to individual students one at a time. The options are reached through the three dots menu in the Actions column and include Pause Session and Reseat Session. Action options that are visible depend on the student's test progress status. The available actions for individual students will appear when a student is in progress. No options will be shown when the student is in a not started or a submitted status. Next, we will review some scenarios in which one or more students may need to be reseated by the proctor during assessment administration. Reseating is when the student's test session was interrupted or exited before the test was submitted as complete, and the system has logged out the student for security purposes. In these cases, the proctor will need to reseat the student to allow them to log back into the test. Reseating scenarios include timeout and/or idle for too long, network disruption, student accidentally closed the test window, system closed the test due to detection of unallowed program. The need for a student to be reseated will generally be indicated by a message on the student's screen that they need to be reseated by their proctor and/or that the test session they are trying to log into is already in use. In these cases, the proctor will access the three dots action menu for the individual student and select Reseat Session to reseat that student. Should something like an internet disruption affect all the students in the class, the Reseat All button can be used as part of the reseating process. If a student receives a test breached message, the proctor dashboard will show the student as breached. When this occurs, the proctor should review the situation to determine whether reseating is appropriate. If appropriate, the proctor can reseat the student through the action menu in the same way as other reseating scenarios. The proctor will be prompted to confirm that the reseat action is intended. Once the student has been reseated, the proctor should refresh the dashboard and see that the student's test status has changed to reseat. The student can then reattempt their login with the test code and student ID. If reseating still does not allow the student to continue their assessment session, the session may have already been submitted. Unsubmitting or reopening an assessment session requires Maine DOE approval. For information about how to request an unsubmit, view the process for requesting an unsubmission. This spring, the Maine Science Assessment will be transitioning from accessing the Atom Lockdown browser as a standalone app to accessing Atom via the TestNav secure browser. There will be differences in the secure browser download process, and how students launch the browser from their device. Once the student's login information has been entered, however, the navigation remains the same as within the previous Atom Lockdown browser. It is recommended that schools remove the old Atom Lockdown browser application from student devices to prevent students from attempting to access the wrong lockdown browser during the assessment administration. More information on TestNav can be found in the TestNav Lockdown Browser Training module and in articles on the Maine Science Support Desk. A different set of warning messages may appear when a student is logging into the test session. If the warning says Error Getting Scheduled Session, have the student re-enter their student ID and also check the roster for the proctor group to make sure they are using the right test code. If the warning says Test Not Found, have the student re-enter the test code and double-check the information is correct on the student's test ticket. If the alert is that the test is already in session, then the student should be reseated and then retry logging in. A message that the test is blocked will appear for students with a paper-only accommodation if they try to log into a test session online. If the message indicated the session is already submitted, then the proctor should check to see if one of the following conditions is true: that the student did already complete the test session, or that the student accidentally submitted the test session, or that the student started but did not complete the test session and the session was auto-submitted at end of day. All incomplete sessions auto-submit at 11:59 p.m. each day. Unsubmitting an assessment session requires Maine Department of Education approval. Science Assessment Administration support for SAUs can be obtained from the Maine Department of Education Science Assessment Coordinator and the Maine Science Assessment resource page. You can also contact the Maine Science Support Desk using the toll-free number or utilize the online self-service option. For more information and assistance, visit the Maine Science Support Desk at mescience.zendesk.com.